The aims of the video. So it's to understand the reason behind the EYFS reforms, so the rationale behind it. It's for you to understand the key changes. So that's the key changes within the curriculum in general in all the areas, changes within moderation, assessment. So any of the kind of changes that have been introduced, I'm just going to quickly go through all of them. And it's just to help you think about what this means for you, your school or setting, and your everyday practice. So changes, let's take a look at all of the changes that have happened within the early years. So research indicated obviously the importance of early years, and then this was the time where there wasn't much guidance on what should be taught in the early years. So then, local authorities would guide schools and that kind of thing. And then they came up with desirable outcomes, national standards. Then there was the curriculum guidance for the foundation stage, the Birth to 3 document, SEND Code of Practice, and then finally in 2008 they released the earliest foundation stage, which was the first time I think there was something solid to follow for the early years. And then the EYFS revised in 2012, then again in 2014 and 2017. The Development Matters guidance, which was then released in 2012. And then obviously we know about the Ofsted inspection framework and how that has changed. So let's look at why. So this is, I feel, really, really important, because I know there's been a lot of talk of, why is this being changed? It was working, but let's take a look at why. So one of the main things that has come about is word gap. So these gaps are particularly pronounced in early language and literacy. So they found that by the age of 3, more disadvantaged children are on average are around almost a full year and a half behind their more affluent peers in the early language development. So that's a very, very big gap. 1 in 4 children who struggle with language at the age of 5 do not reach the expected standard in English at the end of primary school. So we're not even looking at the end of the foundation stage here. We're looking long term in terms of how they perform at the end of primary school. So children with vocabulary difficulties at age 5 are 3 times more likely to have mental health problems in adulthood, and twice as likely to be unemployed when they reach adulthood. 60% of young offenders have low language skills. Even if we look at the EYFS profile results for 2019, 72.6% of children achieved at least the expected level for communication and language and literacy. Whereas when we compare that to 2013, that was just 56.9%. So let's look a bit more into the rationale behind the reforms. So there are 2 key objectives. So it's to improve outcomes for all children, particularly in language and literacy. It's to reduce teacher and practitioner workload. Amazing, I know. And then it's more time to allow practitioners to then interact with children. There's a focus on strengthening language and vocabulary development. And I feel as you go on, you'll realise there's more of a focus on strengthening and deepening understanding in all subject areas rather than focusing on exceeders. If you'll understand it once I kind of go through it. And then obviously I've already mentioned the disadvantaged word gap. It's to strengthen literacy and numeracy outcomes in preparation for year 1. So the early learning goals are to be more clearer, more specific, easier to make accurate judgments with, and early learning goals to reflect the strongest predictors for future attainment. So what is changing and when is it changing, basically? So the revised statutory framework for the EYFS, which is the EYFS reforms early adopter version, it was published in July 2020, and I know some settings have already chosen to be a part of the early adopter process. And then if you are not currently using this scheme, it will be implemented. So it will become statutory from September 2021 for all schools, settings and childminders. For early adopter schools only, so obviously this is schools who are currently using this, the statutory framework for the EYFS is the reformed version. And then there is also the earliest foundation stage profile handbook as well. So what is staying the same? So some things are staying the same, and that is the overarching principles of the EYFS. So the unique child, positive relationships, enabling environment, learning and development, quality and consistency, planning for each individual child, partnership working, so that's with the local community, with parents, and then equality of opportunity as well. So it's all about making sure that learning is inclusive, learning is differentiated to meet the needs of all learners. So that, that essence of these kind of key areas are not changing. And I think that's really, really positive, because that really says something about the practitioners within the EYFS and our skills. So yeah, we're doing something right. What else is staying the same? So the safeguarding and welfare requirements, how young children learn, the importance of learning through play, as we know that's very important. The names of the 7 areas of learning, so prime and specific, they're staying the same. I'll look at what is really changing within those, but the actual names of the 7 areas of learning are staying the same. We still have the characteristics of effective learning, teaching and learning, and then the progress check at age 2. So key changes. So learning and development requirements, the educational programs for the 7 areas of learning. So the curriculum is changing, and assessment requirements. So I'm just going to go through that with you. So the revised educational program. So educational programs must involve activities and experiences for children as set out under each of the areas of learning. So the expectations for children's development must ensure that cognitive development proceeds hand in hand with their social and personal development. And that's taken from the statutory framework for the EYFS. So let's have a look at communication and language. So currently it says that the development of children's spoken language underpins all 7 areas of learning and development. Children's back and forth interactions from an early age form the foundations for language and cognitive development. That still remains the same. However, they've added a little kind of bit more information about it. So the number and quality of conversations that they have with children and peers throughout the day in a language-rich environment is crucial. So by commenting on what children are interested in or doing, and echoing back what they say with new vocabulary added, practitioners will build on children's language effectively, which I'm sure we are all doing on a day-to-day basis anyways. So this doesn't come as a surprise. This is something that we do anyways. So in addition, reading frequently to children and engaging them actively in stories, non-fiction, rhymes and poems, and then providing them with extensive opportunities to use and embed new words in a range of contexts will give children the opportunity to thrive. So communication and language is going to be that subject area that has always been like anyways, that kind of holds all the other subject areas together. There's such a big, huge link to communication and language to all of the other subject areas, particularly in vocabulary and reading, and you're going to see that as we go through this as well. So through conversation, storytelling and role play, where children share their ideas with support and modelling from their teacher, and sensitive questioning that invites them to elaborate, children become comfortable using a rich range of vocabulary and language structures. So let's move on to personal, social and emotional development. So currently, children's personal, social and emotional development is crucial for children to lead healthy and happy lives. And it's fundamental to their cognitive development. Underpinning their personal development are the important attachments that shape their social world. Again, it's pretty much similar, but then there's some added information there now. So it's Strong, warm and supportive relationships with adults enable children to learn how to understand their own feelings and those of others. Children should be supported to manage emotions, develop a positive sense of self, set themselves simple goals, have confidence in their own abilities to persist and wait for what they want, and direct attention as necessary. So big links to characteristics of effective learning there. And as we go through, you will notice that in PSED now, there is like a self-regulating aspect to it. So through adult modelling and guidance, they will learn how to look after their bodies, including healthy eating, and manage personal needs independently. So in the current curriculum, that aspect usually comes under physical development. So that's a change there now. So healthy eating and managing personal needs now comes under PSED, which makes a lot of sense. And you'll notice the changes in physical development when I get there as well. And it just kind of makes a lot of sense there as well. So through supported interaction with other children, they learn how to make good friendships, cooperate and resolve conflicts peaceably. These attributes will provide a secure platform from which children can achieve at school and in later life. So physical development, I'm just going to move on to that now because this has changed. So currently physical activity is vital in children's all-round development, enabling them to pursue happy, healthy and active lives. So now there is going to be a focus on gross and fine motor experiences to develop, throughout their whole childhood, starting with sensory explorations. And I'm glad that they've included that in there. And the development of child strength, coordination and positional awareness through tummy time, crawling and play movement with both objects and adults. And that's more for the younger children. And then by creating games and providing opportunities for play both indoors and outdoors, adults can support children to develop their core strength, stability, balance, spatial awareness, coordination, etc. So when we look at gross motor skills, we need to make sure that we provide the foundation for developing healthy bodies and social and emotional well-being. So there is still a big link between PSED and physical development. Fine motor control and precision helps with hand-eye coordination, which is later linked to early literacy, so letter formation, writing, etc. Repeated and various opportunities. So the key word here is repeated, because we need to show that children can do these things time and time again. We want to make sure that they understand how to do something in a variety of ways and a variety of contexts. So it's to explore and play with small world activities, puzzles, arts and crafts, and the practice of using small tools, and that's a variety of small tools with feedback and support from adults. Again, we're linking back to language, and allow children to develop proficiency, control and confidence. So literacy. It's crucial for children to develop a lifelong love of reading. So I did mention before that reading is going to be popping up throughout the whole of the curriculum, and we have to provide reading opportunities anyways, and we were doing that anyways. So it's not a big change really if you think about it. So reading consists of two dimensions: language comprehension and word reading. So language comprehension, which is necessary for both reading and writing, starts from birth. It only develops when adults talk with children about the world around them and the books, stories and non-fiction texts as well, and they read with them and enjoy rhymes, poems and songs together. Skilled word reading, taught later, involves both the speedy working out of the pronunciation of unfamiliar printed words, so decoding, so it's related to phonics now, and the speedy recognition of familiar printed words, so might be tricky words and high frequency words there. Writing involves transcription, so spelling and handwriting now, and composition, so articulating ideas and structuring them in speech before writing. So this is pretty much talk for writing. So I don't know if you guys know about talk for writing, so have a look at that. if you do want to do a bit of research on that, look for Pi Corbett, Talk for Writing. So that's really interesting. So mathematics, developing a strong grounding in number is essential so that all children develop the necessary building blocks to excel mathematically. So now, I know currently it's once you get to the early learning goal, children should know the numbers up to 20 and they're working within 20. So that's changed now. Children should be able to count confidently, develop a deep understanding of the numbers to 10, the relationships between them and the patterns within those numbers. So now we're moving away from, let's recognize all these numbers in a random order and, count to this number. That's great. And if children are able to do that, fantastic. It's great to stretch children. They're not saying don't stretch them. But what they are saying is that children should have that key understanding of what a number actually means. So what does a number 5 mean? What does it look like? How many different ways can we share 5? How many different ways can we make 5? So and that goes up to number 10 as well. So it's just deepening that kind of understanding. So by providing frequent and varied opportunities to build and apply this understanding, such as using manipulatives, including pebbles, 10 frames for organizing and counting, children will develop a secure base of knowledge and vocabulary from which mastery of mathematics is built. So again, we're going back to the vocabulary as well. In addition, it is important that the curriculum includes rich opportunities for children to develop their spatial reasoning skills across all areas of maths, including shapes, space and measures. So that's how it is currently. So now it's important that children, develop positive attitudes and interests in maths, look for patterns and relationships, spot connections, have a go, talk to adults and peers about what they notice and not be afraid to make mistakes. So I know that there's no shape, space and measure in the new curriculum. However, it doesn't mean that we don't provide opportunities for children to weigh and measure and learn about 2D shapes and 3D shapes and explore those, because that is still a part of the curriculum in its essence. You can't really take those kind of key skills away. So understanding the world involves guiding children to make sense of their physical world and their community. The frequency and range of children's personal experiences increases their knowledge and sense of world around them, from visiting parks, libraries and museums to meeting important members of society such as police officers, nurses and or firefighters. So people in their communities and people who help them, basically. In addition, listening to a broad selection of stories. So again, we're linking back to vocab, we're linking back to reading. So that's a variety of non-fiction, rhymes and poems that will give them an understanding of culture and society, and the fact that we live in such a diverse world, as well as building important knowledge, and this extends to their familiarity with words that support understanding across domains. So again, we're linking back to new vocabulary and current and vocabulary that they might know already, and enriching and widening children's vocabulary will support later reading and comprehension. So expressive arts and design, the development of children's artistic and cultural awareness supports their imagination and creativity. It is important that children have regular opportunities to engage with the arts, enabling them to explore and play with a wide range of media and materials. The quality and variety of which children see, hear and participate in is crucial for developing their understanding, self-expression, vocabulary and ability to communicate through arts. The frequency and repetition, so that's another key word there, and depth is another key word, of their experiences are fundamental to their progress in interpreting and appreciating what they hear and respond to and observe. So expressive arts and design is also not only just art, it's also linked to music as well.